Welcome to the Better Wealth Podcast, Enlightened Discipline. I'm Matt Halloran. I'll be your host for this podcast, and I'm joined as always by Scott Stauffer, an experienced financial advisor who is a designated CFP or Certified Financial Planner and the managing partner of Better Wealth. This podcast is brought to you by Better Wealth, located in California's Silicon Valley, serving individual investors and companies from around the United States. Now, today's podcast, we're going to start talking about identifying your goals and writing them down. So, Scott, tell us what we need to know about goal setting.
Thanks, Matt. You know, it's in terms of goals, it's really thinking about the end result, the target, something you want to accomplish in the longer run. And it's the second of the 10 disciplines of better wealth that I think investors would do well to really focus on. The first one was understanding the things we can't control. And what's great about identifying our goals and writing them down as a second one is that this is something we can control. But what I found is it's a little harder than you think for a lot of people. Sometimes they're talking and they're more like, well, okay, let's just sort of I want to make as much money as I can, or I need to save as much money as I can. And what we try to do is to really identify some of the broad categories that we find in personal financial goals, listen intently to what people want, but then helping them to start really working on identifying what are some of their specific goals for retirement, for college savings. Maybe it's remodeling a home or a vacation home or something else. So we do really try to focus people on some of the specifics, but we don't get hung up on the details if they don't have them yet. That's where we can help them quite a bit. One of the things we do try to really emphasize is just not making as much money as you can or saving as much as you can. You really need to identify those goals and write them down.
Okay, give me an example of one of your clients' goals or a story pertaining to a goal-setting experience that you've had with a client that came out to be more successful than even you thought.
Yeah, we were, there was this one couple I was working with, and the situation was, they had worked with a number of different financial advisors, and they always said, everybody sat us down and said, what are your goals? What are your goals? And they were like, we don't know. We don't know where we want to go in retirement. We don't know what we want to do. We don't know if our kids are going to go to college. They seem to focus a lot more on that. So we said, fine, that's great. Time out. Let's go ahead and just talk about what are some of the many goals that you might have. And one of the neat little tools that we pointed them to was something called the prioritizer. So if you just go to if you go to Google and you type in the prioritizer, you'll end up with CNN's Money Essentials. And what's neat about this is, they'll have some goals there that you can identify or maybe identify with and use those. But you can also write in your own. And you can write up to like 15 different goals. And what will happen is it'll then ask you questions. Is this one more important than the other one? When you're comparing these two, which one's more important? Or these other two? And through that whole process, it'll end up ranking your goals for you. And when this couple did that, they were like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. It wasn't as hard as they thought it would be. And it really helped identify what kind of work we needed to do with them around some of their savings goals. And again, it helps us write things down. I really think that writing down your goals is one of the most important things you could do.
Have you had an experience, and let's kind of go in the different direction, where a client had set a goal that was really quite outlandish, and they didn't really have a way to achieve that goal?
Yeah, that's pretty common as well. And I think the best thing that you can do in that point is just sort of say, okay, that's your goal. So here's what we need to do to reach that goal. And we sort of lay it out in steps along the way. And so then we'll say to them, is this attainable? Is this attainable? Or here's what we need to do in the next year to be on track for that goal. And then, they themselves can identify whether that's something that they can do or can't do. And lots of times what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll say, okay, if we can't do it this quickly, we can do it maybe in 5 years longer time frame, or maybe we can reduce some of the spending, or maybe we can change the type of retirement community we want to live in. So there's lots of things. It's okay for your goals to change. It's okay for not every dream that you may have to work out. but how do we find that happy place where we can get you on target for your goals? As we know, even the best laid plans can go awry. And so what's important really is that we verbalize them and write them down. There's a funny thing that I learned a long time ago, and it's sort of like, I call it existence and display. When we're working on goals, if we don't have them out there, written down someplace or have shared them with somebody, then we're less likely to get them done. And it's even as funny as when my wife, we have 3 boys. Right now they're 8, 12, and 13. And every day we have a little dry erase board. I mean, it's not very big. It's, maybe 18 inches by 2 feet or something. And she just writes down what are the main activities of the day. And you'd be amazed, whether it's chores, whether it's activities they're going to do, whether it's some homework assignments, some big projects they're working on. Over time, our boys, they get up in the morning, they go look at that dry erase board, and they're like, okay, what do I need to get accomplished? Now, not all of them are like that. I got one that's first thing he's on it. The other ones are one of my other boys, he sort of looks at it and says, this is what I got to do today. But even still, they know that's what they need to accomplish. And so we try to take on that same role for our clients in terms of their longer term goals. Because a lot of your personal financial goals aren't ones that you're going to accomplish today. They're not ones you're going to accomplish next month or even this year. And so being on track and knowing whether you can reach those goals I think is one of the most critical things that a financial advisor can do. In fact, the role of a financial advisor has really shifted in our industry from being somebody who picked investments to somebody who helps you understand and implement the best practices of wealth management or growing your money. So that's where I really think we bring a lot of value. It's establishing your goals and writing them down is pretty important.
I love the fact that you write them down on a dry erase board, because a dry erase board is something that is easily changed. And you touched on it a little bit, but I want you to come back to this just and clarify for us a little bit more. When people write goals down, Scott, a lot of times they think that they're like written in marble and they're going to be fixed in existence forever. How do you talk people through changing their goals as life changes?
One of the things that we try to do is every time we meet, and whether we're meeting with a client, semi-annually, twice a year, whether we're meeting with them once a year, we sort of have this roadmap that we're working with them on. And this roadmap is going to take them along the way. And life happens. Things change. They change jobs. They change careers. Something happens where they have to move locations. Something happens where they have to work with their parents a little bit more. And so what we're trying to do is we're not trying to, although we may have identified a specific goal, one of the things that we try to do is understand that you may have a fast lane that you're working on. You may have a sort of the middle lane and then the slow lane. And so we try to understand that your goals can change, and we're working with you every year to keep you still pointed towards your goal. You might not be able to go fast every year, and you might not want to, but as life changes and your direction changes a little bit, what we're trying to do is to keep you focused on that end goal. So your goals will change, and that's okay. And what we're trying to do is to just let you know what's attainable, what's not attainable, what's within reach, and what do you need to do each month to make sure that you're sticking within the plan.
So there's a great accountability piece that you have, regardless of how often you're meeting with your clients. They have this roadmap so they can keep themselves on track. And I think the $1 million question is it too late? I mean, when should people start working on these goals?
That's a great question. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we're always working on goals. Every day, whether it's something that we're targeting towards personal fitness, personal health, accomplishing some things at work. So I think it's good to just understand that we're always working on goals. The second thing is that it's never too late to start. And this is where my mom is a great example. And we can end with this. But when I was in high school, my dad got pretty ill and had to retire from his job. So my mom was, I think, 40 years old at the time. Like a lot of women in her generation, she had not finished her college degree. She went to college, met my dad, and they got married. She started having kids. And all of a sudden, here she was in her 40s when her husband was disabled and couldn't work. And so she had to go back to work, didn't have a college degree. And, 25 years later, when she was 65, she retired, and she's had a great retirement. And, some people might say, oh my gosh, I'm 40. There's no way I can do what I need to do for save for retirement. But my mom did it. And she is just a great example of a woman. My father actually passed away about 6 years after he had to retire from some health issues. And she had to do it all. She had to finish raising her kids. She had to, go bring in the money to pay for all the bills, the mortgage, and have a career. And she climbed up, the job ladder that she had at her business. And it's just a great example of how even in your 40s, you can start all over again and still be able to save enough. Now, maybe she didn't have the 2 homes or other things that some people might have in retirement, but she's doing a great job. And I just am super impressed by that example. So it's a good thing to think about. It's never too late to start, and there's always a way to adjust your goals and get back on track.
You also talk about the fact that having somebody to hold you accountable and keep your feet to the fire is also very important. How do you coach your clients when they're feeling like they're a little off track? It sounded like your mom was very, very motivated because she really had the must things to do. And a lot of the clients that you work with have these want things that they need to do. So do you do personal coaching with your clients, or what do you recommend to keep their feet to the fire and their eyes really focused on the prize?
Yeah, we do. It's quite a bit of sitting down and sort of saying, okay, hey, last time we met, this is what we were talking about. This is what you said was important to you. How have we done? Have we been able to max out our 401k at work? Have we been able to save monthly like we talked about? We didn't build up any credit card debt between now and the last appointment. Other things like that. So we're sort of, voicing back to them the things that they've said are important, and that we've said, this is what you need to accomplish to reach your goals. And so again, it's just really helping people, reflecting back to them what they've said is important, what they said they want to accomplish, and sort of saying, okay, did we reach that? Did we not? Do we want to stretch the goal a little bit this next time since we've had some good success? Or do we need to back off a little bit and talk about, okay, why didn't we reach that short-term goal? So it really is that personal coaching. It's sitting down with people and talking about that. In most situations, it's also just acknowledging the great success that people are having. I was thinking back to a quote I heard recently from the baseball coach for the St. Louis Cardinals. Very successful guy, and he's coaching his son's Little League team. And his sort of quote was that if you have a heartbeat, you need encouragement. And so that's what we try to do too, is just really acknowledge the good things that our clients are doing and then help them focus on the things that they can continue to work on.
That's it for today's Better Wealth podcast. I'm Matt Halloran for Scott Stauffer. Please make sure to follow us at betterwealth.us. And when you're ready to have an advisor who is focused on doing what works better for your success, Scott and his team are available to chat in person, on the phone, or in a video conference.